I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And to check. We haven't heard back from Barb, but let's go ahead and move. It's been 5 minutes, and hopefully she can jump in here. The open meeting law requirements have been met. Meeting was posted, agenda was sent. We have an agenda before you. Looking for a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Rick, second by Deb. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. You have minutes that were sent to you of our previous meeting. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, corrections? All those in favor of approving the minutes from the previous meeting say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. A public health update on COVID-19. Does anybody, I have not gotten any recent data from them.
I just looked at the website yesterday, the Trempealeau County Sheriff's Office or Trempealeau County website with a COVID link, and they were back down to around 17 currently positive. And they had noted it's on a downward trend. I guess that's all I've seen of it.
Yeah. Okay. I do know that they continue to do vaccinations on Wednesdays at the clinic. They're through appointment. All information available on the website. All right. Move on to number 6 then.
Human Services has a small grant for our ADRC staff to help seniors get registered for vaccines. If there are any seniors who are struggling figuring out how to do that, particularly online, our staff are prepared to help with that.
Good. Yeah, it's a little daunting. My son, who has, a differing ability, tried to do it and he brought it to me, and then I looked at it and I said, oh my goodness. It's like, okay. So yeah. And I think our issue was a dead link, which ultimately was, I think, fixed, or it was an inaccurate link. But I think that's really good to note that the ADRC can assist people with doing that, because it can be difficult to navigate, especially if you get linked to other places and they have bad info. So
You're not familiar with using technology.
exactly. Okay. So moving on to number 6, discussion and action relating to the disaster-related emergency funding sources. We had kind of shifted that from the other name that we were using to something that was more broad, that's covered more of the different types of funding that's coming out. So Deb, you probably know a lot more about this than I.
So we're continuing to track this. I know Paul has sent in the DUNS numbers and all those kind of things to be able to draw down the money. We continue to work with the integrity group on this. I think one of the conversations that needs to happen, I think more broadly than just this committee, either with the exec finance and or the county board, is there is funding in there for a number of things in our county outside of the 5.7 million. There's money for housing, there's money for small businesses, there's money for businesses affected like tourism. There's broadband, there's a number of things that people have expressed interest in. I have heard now a couple days ago at the CJCC, it's getting around the county that there's a whole bunch of money and county's trying to figure out how to spend it. So the CJCC was trying to think, how could they tap into it? I read in the paper yesterday, that the tourism folks are looking how to tap into the 5.7. I think at some point we probably sooner than later should have integrity present this whole package of the American Rescue Plan Act to exec finance and or the county board, and talk about what's in there for some of these other options. And then what do we do with the 5.7 is a sub conversation of that would be my recommendation. When we did talk with the integrity group a couple of weeks ago, I did ask about, are there certain specific programs or what can we do? The language is a little bit vague at this point. One thing that is clear is for unrealized revenues, reduced revenues in 2020 because of COVID. And so one of the things that Paul and I are working on, Paul has started, he and I just have to sit down and kind of go through it, is the integrity group gave us some excellent advice. They said, look at the difference between your revenues, your collected revenues, not like your state grants, things like that just happen no matter what. But look at your collected revenues between 18 and 19, project a growth pattern. So say the revenues between the 2 years went up 2%, just pick a number out of the air. And then you look at the difference between 19 and 20. And even if they stayed exactly the same, we could argue, in fact, that we lost 2% because we should have theoretically seen a 2% growth. And so Paul and I are putting that together. She says that's one of the easiest ways to draw down the money. What that would do then is put a lot of money into the general fund. And at that point, the county could figure out how to allocate out those resources. I have heard, again, it was mentioned in the paper, I have heard from other folks that there's recommendations that we look at a process similar to when the CapEx 2020 came through. I have also heard some people say they didn't love that process. So I think the county board needs to figure out what is this process that we're going to figure out how to use these funds, other than, first of all, figure out what is in the whole plan that could benefit the county outside of the 5.7. And then of the 5.7, how are we going to draw it down? And then if we can just draw it down and put some amount of it into the general fund. And again, if we continue to see lower revenues in 2021 than 19, we can draw down money for that as well in those kind of collected revenues. I don't know that Trempealeau County will see enough money to draw down 5.7 just in that one methodology. But if we can put even $1 million in the general fund for that, what does the county want to do with those funds? And I think, I don't know if it's our group that should bring forward some suggestions or not, but I think we need to have the county start framing up a process, because everybody's starting to get interested in nibbling on this money. And this is as I've said to the county board, this is a once in a lifetime type of windfall and to the county. And we want to use these funds in a way that will make a difference for a lifetime. And how do we do that versus just nibbling it away here, there, and everywhere, and then we don't have a lot to show for it. That's just my 2 cents worth.
I think it's a great idea to have the integrity group do a presentation on exactly what's involved, what, let all those questions be asked to the full board. I think going to just one smaller committee will still end up with 12 people who aren't on that committee who are at a loss of, okay, what does this mean? So I'd say just take the full board, and then they can all get the same information at the same time. And then I think that if we don't even know what we're dealing with, how do we develop a plan to go forward to deal with it when you don't even know what you're dealing with? So I think that is a great idea. Have they indicated that that's something that they're able to do, willing to do, that they feel they have a pretty good grasp of what that money is about?
Yeah, Olivia she has sent Paul and I a few emails about, like, for example, the housing money that's in there. She sent that to us and said, you as a county can set the tone for this. That housing money is outside of the 5.75 million. So what does the county want to do about that housing money? We should be upfront setting the tone on that, figuring how that is going to get used in our county in terms of helping people with rent, utilities, things like that. I suspect that with the tourism money, same thing. Why can't the county set the tone for how that should happen? So I think there's those pieces that she has communicated to Paul and I on already, and she's very knowledgeable on. And then she can talk about the 5.75 as well. Olivia is very, very knowledgeable on this, and this is what she does for a living, so she knows it inside and out. And I'm certain if we asked for a presentation, I'm sure she'd have no problem with that.
Okay, could you see if she would be available to do that for us at our June board meeting?
Sure. Is that going to be, I mean, the June board meeting is going to be 5 weeks from now. Is that going to be too late is my only question.
Well, we won't be
I
able to
know
get it
that-
on the May, we won't be able to get it on the May board meeting because that's Monday. And so it'll be too late to be on the agenda for May. So that would be, we're already going to have a special meeting being called in June for the other issue that law enforcement just discussed. So June, that's probably going to be the
Yeah.
soonest we can get it on the agenda.
It would not be wise to hold up all the speakers for that, that conversation to have to listen to this. So I
No.
agree. The COVID committee does, I believe they're typically on the agenda. We can check with Paul, but typically on every agenda. And so I think, Sally, maybe when you do the report
Mhm.
at the board meeting on Monday, you can talk about, you know, everybody's interested in this money and the county needs to come up with a comprehensive plan. So we're going to have Integrity come and talk to you, and then we can really make the right choices for the county.
Yeah, I agree.
And I
Thank
think
you. It's
we can, I think some staff are excited, and I'm concerned that some staff are already talking some board members into some things, and I just want to press pause. There's a lot of money. There's in the whole package, there's a 5.75 is a lot of money, but I want to make sure that it's a fair process for everybody.
Well, and also, I don't want to spend money on something that there's like, comes out of a general pocket of money and then find out there was a specific fund for that we could have tapped into and didn't need to tap into the bigger piece. So understanding the rules, understanding everything that's available it's really the only way we can have a plan, is to know what it is we're dealing with as much as possible, as much as anybody can in this kind of a situation. So it's a great idea to have her come in. So I will do that. I will bring that up. I will let John know that that this will be for the June board meeting, that we're asking her to do it, and then yeah, start trying to get ahead of it. Okay.
I would check with Paul. This would not be an action item. It would be simply an informational item, and he might be able to do an amended agenda for Monday night if it's not an action item. I know that might be awful early for Olivia too, but it might be worth asking though.
I do not have, Rick, do you by chance, can you catch Monday's agenda? Because I'm navigating my iPad and I are not complete, or my Surface Pro and I are not completely playing nice today, so.
Let me see if I can pick up here too.
Yeah.
Also, just
I know
in
Paul
the
was
meantime,
amending-
some additional guidance came out this week.
What additional
Sorry,
guidance
I
did
think
you see?
Some additional guidance came out regarding specifics on what it can or cannot be used for. I don't have it right in front of me, but I can forward that on to people as well. But they did expand on a little bit more as to what can or can't be used for.
COVID committee is on there as a committee report, agenda item number 8.
I'm looking at the size of, like, if we have 23 items on the agenda, that could make for an incredibly long meeting. And that's why I don't even know what's on the agenda yet. So if it looks like it's a fairly short one,
Just
COVID
looking at,
committee, COVID committee is on there, item number 8.
yeah, we should be monthly.
right. And the agenda itself, it doesn't look like it's anything too lengthy. It looks like most everything is going to be pretty standard. So it certainly is a possibility if Integrity Group is available.
Yeah, I think it might be. I mean, I'll check with Olivia right away, but if she would be available, she could do a presentation, get the idea in people's heads, so then it could really be discussed for action in June. That might be ideal, because I think people need some time to noodle this.
Right. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it is, I had verified that we would continue to have a COVID committee update every month until further notice. And so that is, Paul confirmed that would be on the agenda go every month. So yeah, we should be able to address anything COVID related. Again, as long as it's not an action item, so. Yes, if you could reach out to Olivia and find out if she can do this on short notice, or if somebody can. Olivia, I think probably because she's immersed in it, probably real quick with answers to the myriad of questions that will come to her. But
He would be excellent.
Rick, where we're at on the agenda, would board members be able to ask her questions though, or?
Well, I would propose that we amend the agenda to include a presentation, and then if there's a presentation, board members can ask. So I would prefer to amend the agenda.
Could you take care of that?
Yeah, we have time for that. Deb, why don't you let me know to make sure she's available first, and then we can amend the agenda, because we have until the end of the day today to amend.
Okay.
I'll coordinate that with you, Rick.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. Anything else? Okay. Then go. Discussion availability of PPE. Jeremy.
Again, there's really no changes to that. I have a decent stockpile that I'm still passing out to the jail as requested, the front door as needed, and any other departments as needed. The only thing that really changes is I do buy like the disinfecting wipes, but I only buy what's available. So the 1 week my order might be Lysol wipes, the next week it may be a generic brand or a Clorox wipe, but really no change. Like I said, keeping the department stocked with what they need as requested. So
Okay.
I can get my hands on another 1,000 face masks if anybody needs them. I don't need them right now. They're being kind of stockpiled at Badger State Sheriff's executive director's residence, but we've got quite a few left, and 1,000 are mine. So
yeah, and I have probably about 3,500 to 4,000 masks, the paper blue and white paper masks here in the building as well.
Okay. Then so I guess my thought on this, just for efficiency's sake, Jeremy, do you want to just be able to be allowed to not attend these meetings and just send an update to me? Situation's the same, nothing's changed, and since I don't think your report has varied very much for the past few months.
No, my report doesn't vary too much. I can do that if that works for you. I can just give you an update the week of the meeting, but again, with the amount of stuff that the stuff that my staff uses, the disinfectant sprays and whatnot, that goes through changes, but that's departmental, not what I keep for the general use of the building. So I can just send you a report every 2 weeks unless told different.
Yeah, why don't, just because I know how busy you are with everything in this, and we've got what's going on across the street, I think it's probably a better use of your time to just go ahead and shoot me an email when you, so that we at least are staying on top of it. We know that what the situation is, and I have every faith that if there were suddenly a dramatic shift in it, you would let us know, and we could always, then you'd pop into a meeting. But yeah, I feel like your time probably is not best spent sitting there.
But
That's my opinion.
That works for me. Thank you very much.
No problem. Okay. Okay, number 8, discussion review action on new and existing county-related policies. The virus outbreak pandemic response plan. Recently, Dan Schreiner became the chair of the local emergency planning committee. I'm not on that committee anymore, and so it is probably better for the pandemic response plan to be worked on by the emergency management group as part of the bigger emergency response plan. And so he has asked that those components be sent to his committee so that can be incorporated part of the bigger county emergency response plan. So does anybody have any objections, thoughts, concerns about that?
Like it, it's a good idea.
I agree. At the time when we were working on it, it basically dovetailed with the fact that I was chair of the LEPC, and the LEPC was kind of deferring to this committee on things COVID. But now that we're looking at a response plan, a future response plan, Dan Schreiner indicated at the Law Enforcement Committee meeting that it was a concern of his that we had been caught completely unaware and unprepared, and so I know that this is a something that he plans to work on. So he had indicated he felt that that should be sent, and I agree. So okay, well, so we'll go ahead and start directing department heads to send their plans to him, and then he'll be able to do what it is that he does. So so at this point going forward, I think I'll leave it on the agenda only for a matter of, in the event that there's a question of concern, somehow it's an issue, then it's on the agenda. But other than that, I think that's where we're at with it.
I'd also like to, when they're done, I'd like to have, if our committee's still in existence, like to hear what they're doing.
Well, we are going to continue to be a committee that after this pandemic passes and everything is settled back down, we will continue to be a committee that meets at least probably annually, but more likely twice a year. To yes, we will have that plan that will be part of the bigger picture thing. But yes, we will continue to be a committee going forward. I believe that it was moved a while back that the name be changed after the public emergency is declared as over. Once everything returns to that state that everybody keeps referring to as normal, we'll probably go ahead and ask that it be renamed Outbreak Response or Outbreak Committee or something along the lines. So if anything happens, then it's an appropriate committee. So changing the name from COVID to pandemic, outbreak, whatever. So yeah, we'll continue to be in existence, and we'll definitely have the plan. So okay.
Another policy question that I have that was brought to me yesterday is apparently the CDC determined that if you have been fully vaccinated, that you are not required to wear a mask. And I've already been asked, how does that pertain to our policy in our building? I suspect that the front door will be also asked that same question. So I'm not proposed with I hate to bring up a problem without a resolution, but I don't have an opinion on how it should be resolved, but I just thought it should be brought up.
Well, and that's where number B, or letter B, the preventative measures for facilities and staff. Yes, a lot of questions coming at me. I think I've had people contact me, and I was already of the mindset that we do need to look at loosening some of the restrictions. As we see our numbers continue to downward trend, as more and more guidance comes out of the CDC for indoor activities, indoor precautions, things like that. I think it is, it's important that we look at this. People are trying to follow the rules. I keep going, oh, wait, I got to put my mask back on, I follow the rules. But thoughts on this one? Do we, just kind of hoping Barb would be here to give us what she knows the most recent recommendations were, but we've all read it.
Let's
This is
discuss
just-
it at the next meeting and ask Barb to be prepared.
And here's my suggestion, based on the things that I'm seeing coming out, not only from the CDC, but also on the more local level. It would be my opinion that we modify our policy to recommend but not require face coverings for anybody within the courthouse. And the reason I say anybody is I'm a little concerned that we start differentiating between vaccinated and non-vaccinated individuals. And so that's just my recommendation based on the things that are coming out right now, that would be, in my opinion, an appropriate step in the next process.
Okay. I agree. I think there's we've got, we can't ask employees if they've been vaccinated. I know some certain professions can, but I know that there's a lot of health privacy things going around that we have to be concerned about. But I agree. I think The time, the question would be when do we do it effective this month? Do we shoot for a June 1st date? Thoughts on that?
And again, my opinion on that is just simply that since the guidelines have come out already effective, that we should do it sooner rather than later.
Okay.
I would agree, because if we set a date out in the future, we don't know what the conditions are going to be like on that particular date, but we know that what they are right now. So.
Okay. And I'm fine with that too.
And I would agree with Rick in that this is going to open up a Pandora's box. I don't think we have the right to ask people if they're vaccinated. I don't think people should have to feel compelled to say whether or not they're vaccinated. This is just going to add fire to an already raging fire, I think, or fuel to an already raging fire. If we try to start enforcing it based on whether or not you're vaccinated. So, and I see businesses all over the place are either taking their signs right off their door, or they're changing them to masks are encouraged.
Right.
I do have one question regarding this. So is this a policy that this committee can modify, or do we have to go to personnel bargaining? I don't remember how it started in the first place.
This committee was formed to set policy for the county facilities and employees.
Okay.
And that was,
The ones that have gone to personnel bargaining are really about employee days off, things like that.
right.
Okay. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Would it be beneficial for us to take this back to our individual departments, or send it out to all the department heads for feedback? And maybe call a special COVID committee meeting, or would that be asking for trouble too?
Well, I think department heads, each department has its own unique mission and its own unique processes and its own unique policies. I mean, and I think that might be, do we include for, or as,
I'm personally good with what our lawyer recommends. I may have a personal opinion one way or another, but as the right decision for the county, I guess I'm very comfortable with what Rick recommends.
Yes, I would be too. I just know that there will be employees that say, well, you didn't ask me. And then there might be others that say they didn't care. So, but I agree, Deb. We're acting on advice from a corporate attorney. So.
right. And we, we don't always ask everybody's opinion when we make policy. And I know there are people that want to be consulted on everything. I know that. Yeah.
And I'm going to clarify. I don't believe that was Rick's advice. That was just some talk that he had there. I'm not sure that he was advising us that. He'd have to clarify that, I guess.
I do appreciate that, because certainly I'm not a health official by any means, but the other thing too is just because we change it to encourage or recommended, whatever terminology we use, that doesn't mean that those who are uncomfortable can't still wear their masks. We're not telling them they can't. It's just that we're telling people you don't have to unless you want.
Right. And I think along those lines, I think we also be sure to include language that says that, it's at this point, it's personal choice, and that people need to respect other people's decisions. And because yes, it's still an emotional issue for people, and we don't want people to feel, mask shamed, or, just that whole bit. Things need to be dialed back a lot in this county. And I think, so just make, however the language will look. I mean, for my agency, they just issued a new, an updated, working during a pandemic policy, and they included language like that. This is a personal choice, and everybody needs to respect each other's choices. And I appreciated that language personally, and should not have need to be said, but just stating the obvious. I think the other thing we have to look at is there's going to be questions about what does this mean about meetings. I think the CDC is still recommending that there not be large gatherings inside, like, not huge in confined spaces where there's not the ability to social distance. I think the social distance piece is still important. I know they're still saying these, you still need to kind of respect that. So, that one, I think, like for the county committee meetings, I think they're still holding on, all meetings being held there. I don't know that this committee can tell the full board what to do with its committee meetings. But I do think our recommendations are we're still looking at, we feel that people still should have the ability to attend remotely if they want to or need to. And then still doing social distancing, or the ability to space out in meetings. That's my opinion. Does anybody differ in opinion?
Just to clarify, you're saying that still do meetings in the county boardroom, still with the distancing, but no masks during the meetings? Is that what you're saying? Because people are going to ask. Remember.
Right, and that's why I'm saying let's adjust, because the minute we talk about making the mask optional, people are going to be saying, does this mean we can go back to holding the highway committee meetings or whatever? I'm not sure that we were the ones that told the county board not to. I think that decision was made before this committee was even formed. I'm really not sure who made that decision, but it is one that's starting to come back to me. And then things like, yes, we have a meeting where we know there's going to be a lot of public present. For example, the law enforcement committee meeting the other day, I was not comfortable with the amount of people in that room because I was like, at times, like I'd start to move my mask. I'm like, nope, got to put it back on. There's just too many people here. And so when I made the motion to hold a special meeting, I was like, in another venue where we can safely accommodate a crowd. That concern of we're not bringing a whole bunch of people into a room. So I think creating language or including language that says still social distancing, we're still concerned about this. We aren't back to where everybody's shoulder to shoulder. That's what I'm saying. So I don't, maybe does anybody know, Rick, do you know where the decision was that every meeting would be held in the boardroom and on the public wouldn't be allowed? Was that based on something that came down from the state or WCA or?
I don't think we ever made the decision the public wouldn't be allowed because we never closed the building. I think the decision was made that we strongly encourage the public to join us in other ways. And that's how we have been, thank goodness for our TV studio,
Right.
who has made this hugely available to the public. And quite frankly, I think in many ways, the public's been able to better participate in the county board governance. Quite frankly, I'm kind of wondering if having the meetings in the county boardroom and continuing to have those be televised is, that's almost a communication issue in some way. And I'm not sure it's just our issue. The other thing I would talk about, if we continue to have the county boardroom for all the meetings, that's certainly fine. But if we could get the Wisconsin room back for meetings for staff, that would be lovely. We don't really use that space, to my knowledge, for visitors to hold them anymore, especially if people are wearing masks and things like that. So I'd like to be able to get that one back online as a meeting space if possible.
Yeah, I don't know if it's being used.
That one, it does vary from time to time. There is one or two departments that still are asking people to go into that room and then they come down and meet them, but those departments, so if the mask issue changes in the building, then those departments also might make different concessions. But the usage that we had at the beginning was pretty much every department used it. Now I can only think of two that are asking people to wait in there, and that's still on a case-by-case basis, so it's not every person. So I don't think that would be an issue, converting that back into a meeting space, but it would just probably by the time this committee meets next in 2 weeks, that would give me time to communicate with those departments and set up some stuff with them.
Why don't we do this? Let's loosen the mask. Let's go to the optional language on that. Optional but encouraged, and then address meeting spaces at our next meeting. And that will give time for a little bit of feedback to find out from departments how many feel that based on the type of work they do with the public, they need that, or yeah, we're ready to go back to just come to our office. Because I know the courts are allowing in the courtroom now. Before you had to go in and drop your papers and leave. So,
And most offices have like plexiglass and things like that now, so I think it's fairly safe to go in for client or visitors to go and visit the whatever office they want.
okay.
I had just curious now. Okay, so we're talking about employees. Are we still requiring visitors to wear masks when they come in? I mean, I don't think we were
I
saying
would
that.
recommend all.
I was
Oh,
assuming it was everyone.
I did
Okay,
too.
I just wanted to clarify because I wasn't sure on that. And just so we're all aware, I mean, the court system still, if you are actually in the courtroom itself, you're still required to wear one. But then just so in case someone asks, until the Supreme Court changes the circuit court rules, they still are required to wear one in court.
In the courtrooms, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
The other thing is too, with the Wisconsin room, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to get some input from the department heads as to converting that back to a meeting room. If there are two departments still utilizing it for those purposes, maybe getting some input just to make sure we aren't kind of angering those two departments if they still want to utilize that, I guess.
so, if we could send out something that says, the committee's looking at, here's what we're loosening so far. We're looking at a June 1st release of the Wisconsin room. If this is not, if you still need it for your department, please, contact. I get Jeremy, since you're the one that kind of seems to be working with that. Is
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I'll take that on, considering that room is held under my department's name indefinitely. Since I'm the one that kind of took it away from everyone, I'll make sure that I'll get a hold of each department head and see if anyone has an issue converting it back to a meeting space.
Okay, so what, having like a June 1st target date that unless there's some need that we don't know of, unless people come back to us, just assume that in 2 weeks, in June 1st, we'll release it back for its previous use?
Yeah, pretty much. When I get back to my desk, I'll look at a calendar and I'll set a date roughly 2 weeks out, so.
Okay, and then in terms of whether committees continue, that's something I guess that we'll need to go to exec finance, the full board, to discuss if this is an ongoing, like you said, Deb, that's a communication, that's an open meetings, that's a something that the county board should look at. I know there's definitely an appetite for keeping that so that people can participate and can observe. And I've gotten just a tremendous amount of positive feedback about the ability to have all meetings televised. So, but I think that would have to be something the board would have to decide for themselves. But okay, so effective what, Monday, the masks get, or do we just send the email now? Go ahead, it's up to you.
Well, my thought was, if everybody's okay with this, I'll get the current policy that requires it, do some tweaking to it and send it to this committee just to see the language and make sure there isn't any additional comments. Obviously do an independent response, don't do a reply all type of a thing just because of the meetings or open meetings laws. But my thought was I can put together some tweaked language and send it to this committee and then people can reach out for some comment.
Okay,
And then go into effect on Monday. Is that reasonable?
sounds good. Anybody else have thoughts on that? If you're doing a thumbs up, anybody, I don't see it because I'm looking at my agenda and I can't split screen because, again, my Surface Pro and I are having a battle of will right now. So,
Sheriff is good with it.
okay. I was just thinking, I bet Brett's sitting here doing this thing and I'm missing it.
So then just to clarify, once this is all said and done, any signage that's on the front door, I'll just have that changed over Monday morning to masks are encouraged, basically, for the
Yes.
general public as well, so,
Yes.
okay.
And I think when this goes out to the full staff and everything, I think the other thing probably is to remind them that we shouldn't be asking the public if they're vaccinated unless it's within the appropriate job functions, you know, like for obviously if you're, you know, like in the jail or the health department, some of these where that's part of the job description, part of something that they are supposed to do. But other than that, somebody walks up to a counter and don't have a mask, employees should not be asking, have you been vaccinated or you should wear a mask? Again, I'd like to think that we shouldn't need to tell people that, but I've learned to just go ahead and say it, and then everybody knows they know.
Good idea.
Again, I'm borrowing from what my agency said. Don't ask your clients if they've been vaccinated. It's rude. Okay. Any other thoughts? Anything else on the precautions, preventative measures? Okay. Then, other COVID topics for the future meetings. I think we've kind of already, as we've gone along, said what the next meetings we'll be discussing. Does anybody have anything else?
I do not.
No.
Okay.
I do.
Deb, did you say you do or did you say you don't?
I do not.
Okay. All right, then I guess our next meeting date.
May
Sam?
28th.
I don't. Okay, 5/28 at 9
May
a.m.
28th?
I won't be there. My son's graduation party is that day, so I'll be busy setting up for that.
Okay. Is that Memorial Day weekend?
It is.
Yes,
Yeah.
graduation, Memorial Day for, graduation for a lot, Memorial Day weekend besides.
Would you guys prefer to be able to have Friday not be a meeting, or I mean, this is usually just an hour long. It's up to you guys.
Or we could move, maybe if we move it to Wednesday or Thursday that week.
That works too.
That would work.
Okay, do it.
Thursday's department head meeting, and then we have the supervisor's class. Wednesday, I don't have anything on my schedule. I can't speak for everybody else, so.
Let's
It was either.
tentatively go 9 o'clock on Wednesday, and then I'll see if hey, is there somebody from the TV studio listening, if they could weigh in, if they know that this room's open? Or I can send an email. So that would be the 26th. Okay. I'll email and find out if the room's available. Otherwise, just go ahead and do that. And then if the room's available, we'll get the invite set out for that day with the WebEx thing, and then that will be your confirmation that it worked, that we've got it. So,
Sounds good.
okay.
This is Drew from the TV studio. It is open at 9 on the 26th.
Do you have the authority?
The whole room is open. It's just on our calendar. It is. So just check. Just passing that on.
Okay. Do you have the authority to go ahead and put us on that calendar and protect it for us with your life?
Oh, I can block it off for the studio, but I could pass it along to Derek. I think he has the authority to put that on there. So.
Okay.
Yep.
And then I will confirm it with Tammy.
Okay. Yep.
All right. Then let's just go ahead and assume based on that we can do 9 a.m. on the 26th, Wednesday. Okay. Then 9:49, I adjourn the meeting. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.